Have you ever wondered what happens behind closed doors in the lives of US presidents? These powerful men, who shaped the destiny of the United States, were often seen as paragons of strength, leadership, and influence. But what if I told you that some of the most prominent figures in American history had a secret that was hidden from the public eye for years? A secret that could change the way we view these leaders forever. Today, we are diving deep into the hidden sexual lives of US presidents, uncovering rumors, whispered secrets, and untold stories about their sexual orientations that were kept in the shadows. From emotional relationships with men to possibly secret romantic liaisons, these are the stories you've never heard before. So, buckle up. Some of these revelations will shock you, some will make you question everything you thought you knew about these men, and some will leave you wondering how much of our history is built on carefully crafted facades. Ready to explore the untold truths? Let's get started. 1. James Buchanan. James Buchanan is often remembered as the only US president who never married. While his bachelorhood was publicly accepted as a personal choice, many have speculated about his closeness to his political ally, William Rufus King. Buchanan and King were so inseparable that their relationship led to whispers about the nature of their bond, with some contemporary sources referring to them as Miss Nancy and his better half. Though it's never been conclusively proven, there is a strong argument that Buchanan's emotional attachment to King was not just platonic, but romantic. The fact that Buchanan remained a bachelor throughout his life, coupled with his avoidance of women and the public's lack of knowledge about his personal life, raises the possibility that he was hiding his true sexual preferences. These rumors about Buchanan's possible homosexuality have persisted for years, and the mystery of his relationship with King continues to fascinate historians today. Could this quiet, reserved man have been one of the first presidents to secretly live a life that defied the norms of his time? 2. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, often celebrated as one of the greatest presidents in American history, is also the subject of some intriguing rumors about his sexual orientation. Lincoln's close relationships with several men, particularly Joshua Speed, have led some historians to speculate about his true feelings. While Lincoln's letters to Speed reflect a deep emotional bond, many have questioned whether their relationship was more than just friendship. The two men shared a bed for several years, which, though common at the time, raises eyebrows in modern context. The emotional depth of their correspondence, with Lincoln referring to Speed as his dearest and best friend, suggests that their connection may have gone beyond simple camaraderie. Although there is no definitive evidence that Lincoln's relationship with Speed or other men was sexual, the secrecy surrounding his personal life has fueled speculation for years. Could Lincoln have been living a closeted life, hiding his true desires in a time when such a thing was unthinkable? The idea that Lincoln, the great emancipator, might have been struggling with his own identity adds another layer of complexity to his already tragic life. 3. Franklin Pierce. Franklin Pierce's presidency is often overshadowed by the more dramatic figures of his time, but his personal life is filled with mystery and rumors. Pierce, who was deeply affected by the death of his son, had a turbulent and emotional presidency. But there are also whispers about his sexuality, with some historians speculating that his relationships with men were more than just friendly. Pierce was a bachelor for much of his early life before marrying Jane Means Appleton, but his time in office was marked by close relationships with male companions. The nature of these friendships, combined with his emotional instability, has led some to suggest that Pierce's private life may have been more complex than previously thought. His inability to form strong connections with women, coupled with his emotional dependence on male figures, fuels the speculation about his hidden sexual preferences. Could the emotional struggles that defined Pierce's presidency have been connected to a secret he felt forced to keep hidden? His troubled relationships with men suggest that he might have been living a life that was more difficult to navigate than history has led us to believe. 4. Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt is known for his boisterous personality, military exploits, and progressive policies. But could there be more to his character than meets the eye? Some historians have suggested that Roosevelt's aggressive public persona masked a quieter, more personal struggle with his own sexuality. Roosevelt's close relationships with several men, particularly during his time in the military, have led to speculation about the nature of these bonds. Some of his contemporaries, including fellow Rough Riders, were rumored to have shared a more intimate connection with him than was publicly acknowledged. While there is no concrete evidence that Roosevelt had romantic relationships with men, his intensity and the closeness of his relationships have left many wondering if his personal life was more complicated than his public image would suggest. Given Roosevelt's public persona as a man of action and masculinity, it's intriguing to consider whether these relationships, potentially romantic in nature, were hidden from the public eye. If Roosevelt did indeed have a secret side to his identity, it would only add to the complexity of a man who is often seen as the epitome of rugged individualism. 5. Harry S. Truman. Harry S. Truman is often remembered for his decisiveness, particularly when he made the monumental decision to drop atomic bombs on Japan during World War II, ending the conflict but also leaving a legacy of controversy. Truman was a president who preferred to keep his personal life private, and his straightforward, no-nonsense public persona masked a more complex and sometimes secretive private existence. Behind the political decisions, there are rumors about his relationships with men that suggest his life was far from what the public perceived. Truman was married to Bess Truman for much of his life, but his close relationships with male colleagues and friends have raised questions. Some historians have noted that Truman's emotional dependency on certain men may have been more than just friendly. There were several male figures with whom Truman shared a deep bond, some of whom were said to have been much more than just political partners. One of Truman's close friends, who accompanied him through much of his political career, was said to have shared a private closeness that some speculate could have extended beyond mere friendship. Though there is no concrete evidence to support the idea that Truman had romantic relationships with men, the secrecy surrounding his emotional life has kept these rumors alive. Could Truman have been living a life in which his true desires were hidden? Was his emotional reliance on certain men a reflection of a more intimate connection, something that would have been socially unacceptable at the time? Given Truman's reputation as a president who valued loyalty and strength, it's possible that the complexity of his personal relationships was simply never acknowledged publicly. In this context, Truman's private life presents a picture of a man caught between his public duties and personal struggles. The emotional depth of his male relationships might have been an expression of his secret desires, adding a layer of intrigue to his otherwise steadfast and simple public image. 6. John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy is widely regarded as one of the most charismatic and beloved presidents in U.S. history. His youthful energy, political brilliance, and public persona as a sex symbol made him a favorite both in the United States and around the world. But behind the charm and endless affairs, there are whispers that Kennedy's relationships with women may have only been part of the story. While Kennedy's numerous affairs with women, including famous figures such as Marilyn Monroe, are well known, there are lesser discussed rumors about his possible relationships with men. As a young man, Kennedy was known to form close emotional bonds with several men, including his close friend and advisor, Lem Billings, with whom he reportedly shared a deep, almost inseparable connection. Their relationship was so close that some suggest it may have crossed the line into something romantic, although the details of their bond remain speculative. Kennedy's health struggles, particularly his chronic back pain and ongoing medical issues, have also been linked to rumors that his relationships with certain men were more intimate than what was publicly acknowledged. Some have pointed to his emotional vulnerability, his dependence on male companions during times of illness, and the secrecy that shrouded his private life as evidence that Kennedy might have had a hidden side that the public never knew. While the rumors surrounding Kennedy's sexuality remain speculative, the idea that his public persona as a womanizer may have been a cover for a deeper, more complex personal life is a compelling one. Could Kennedy, the poster child for American charm and charisma, have been hiding his true identity in plain sight? If these rumors are true, it would add another layer of complexity to the life of a president who was already marked by tragedy and controversy. 7. Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson, the 36th President of the United States, was known for his aggressive political maneuvering, his ability to push through significant legislation like the Civil Rights Act, and his larger-than-life personality. Johnson's time in office was characterized by bold decisions, including his escalation of the Vietnam War. However, his personal life, particularly his relationships with men, offers a fascinating and lesser-known side of his character. Johnson's relationships with women are well documented, and he was known for his womanizing behavior. But what is less well known are the rumors about his close relationships with certain men. LBJ was infamous for his Johnson treatment, a tactic in which he would use his size and influence to intimidate others. But some of the men he treated in this way were said to have had a more personal, perhaps intimate, connection with him. Johnson's private life, often hidden from public scrutiny, raises questions about his sexuality. Historians have speculated that Johnson's political success, combined with his relationships with powerful men, may have masked a deeper, secret side to his desires. Was his aggressive approach to politics and his relationships with male political figures a cover for a more personal connection? Was LBJ hiding his true sexual orientation in a time when being openly gay was simply unimaginable for someone in his position? While there is no concrete evidence to suggest that Johnson had same-sex relationships, the intensity of his connections with certain men, combined with his own reputation for secrecy, raises important questions about what lay behind his public image as a powerful, sometimes overbearing leader. 8. Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, the 28th President of the United States, is best known for leading the U.S. through World War I and for his advocacy for the League of Nations. A deeply intellectual and reserved figure, Wilson's public life was marked by his efforts to make America a world leader. However, his personal life reveals a different side of him, one that has been the subject of speculation, particularly regarding his relationships with men. Wilson's first wife, Ellen, passed away while he was in office, and he soon remarried Edith, who took on a significant role in his presidency. Some historians have suggested that Edith was not just a supportive spouse, but a surrogate for Wilson's emotional needs, and that their relationship masked deeper personal struggles. Before marrying Edith, however, Wilson had deep, emotional relationships with several male colleagues, including a relationship with his close friend, the intellectual and politician, Oswald Garrison Willard. These bonds, intense and deeply emotional, raise questions about the true nature of Wilson's feelings. At the time, emotional intimacy between men was more common than it is now, but the secrecy surrounding Wilson's emotional life suggests that there may have been more to these friendships than what was publicly acknowledged. Wilson's emotional dependency on male companions and his careful management of his image suggest that he might have been hiding a side of his sexual identity to protect his political career. While there is no direct evidence to suggest that Wilson was romantically involved with men, the complexity of his personal relationships adds an intriguing layer to his presidency. What if his intellectual pursuits and his public political career were all a cover for deeper, more personal struggles that he kept hidden from the world? 9. Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the author of the Declaration of Independence, is regarded as one of the most influential figures in American history. He is often seen as a symbol of enlightenment, freedom, and democracy. However, Jefferson's private life paints a much more complex and controversial picture, especially when it comes to his relationships with both women and men. Jefferson's relationship with his slave, Sally Hemings, is well documented, and it is widely accepted that Jefferson fathered several children with her. While this affair has been discussed for years, what is less known is the possibility that Jefferson may have had romantic relationships with other men. His relationship with his fellow founding father, James Madison, is one example that has raised eyebrows. They were incredibly close, and some historians speculate that their friendship could have been more than just platonic. In the context of 18th century political life, intense emotional bonds between men were common, but the depth of Jefferson's relationships with other men goes beyond what would be expected. Jefferson's public image as a champion of liberty contrasts starkly with the private contradictions in his life. If Jefferson's emotional connections with men were more than just friendship, it would have been a highly guarded secret. In a time when same-sex relationships were criminalized and heavily stigmatized, it's not surprising that Jefferson would have hidden such a part of his life from the public. His inability to publicly acknowledge or accept his sexual identity reflects the societal pressures of his time and the lengths to which he, and other political figures, had to go to protect their legacies. The whispers about Jefferson's personal life reveal a man who, while advocating for freedom and justice, was perhaps unable to extend those same freedoms to his own identity. His secret relationships, if true, would add another layer of complexity to the man who helped shape the very ideals of liberty that America cherishes.
10. Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, led the country through some of its most challenging periods, most notably the Great Depression and World War II. He is often hailed as one of America's greatest presidents for his leadership and innovative policies. However, FDR's personal life, particularly his relationships with men, presents a different, more complicated narrative. FDR's marriage to Eleanor Roosevelt was far from perfect. Though they remained married throughout his presidency, their relationship was often strained, with both partners having numerous extramarital relationships. Eleanor, in particular, was known to have had affairs, and some historians suggest that Franklin's personal relationships may have been similarly complex. There are rumors, some even backed by his close confidants, that FDR may have had romantic liaisons with male aides and political figures. One of the most persistent rumors surrounds FDR's relationship with his personal assistant, Missy LeHand. LeHand was known to be incredibly close to Roosevelt, and the nature of their relationship has long been speculated to be more than just professional. Some historians believe that their emotional and physical closeness suggests that Roosevelt may have had romantic feelings for her, or perhaps even for other men in his circle. Roosevelt's need for secrecy, especially regarding his health struggles and his personal relationships, suggests that he may have kept aspects of his sexuality hidden from the public. FDR's struggle with polio, which left him physically debilitated, may have further complicated his personal relationships, especially with men. There were reports that he relied on male attendants and aides for physical assistance, and the nature of these interactions could have led to more intimate connections. The secrecy surrounding his sexual life, combined with his ability to maintain a public image as a family man and leader, speaks to the challenges of being a public figure in a time when such relationships were kept tightly under wraps. If these rumors are true, Roosevelt's legacy as a brilliant and powerful leader would be complicated by the hidden truths of his personal life. A man who faced immense public scrutiny during some of the most difficult years in American history may have been battling personal demons, including the need to conceal his true sexual identity.
11. George H.W. Bush.
George H.W. Bush, the 41st President of the United States, is known for his long career in public service and his role in overseeing the end of the Cold War. His leadership during the Gulf War and his extensive political experience made him a key figure in American and global politics. However, like many figures in American politics, Bush's personal life has remained largely private, and there are rumors about his relationships with men that suggest a much different side to his character. Bush's close relationships with other prominent male figures have raised questions about his sexuality. Some have pointed to his emotional dependency on these men, especially during his time as vice president under Ronald Reagan, as evidence that he may have had secret romantic feelings for them. Bush's relationships with other male political figures were highly private, and while these relationships were often framed in terms of political strategy, some believe there was more to these connections than met the eye. During his presidency, Bush cultivated an image of strength and integrity, but the secrecy surrounding his personal life has left room for speculation. Some believe that his close friendships with men may have been a cover for a more hidden sexual identity. In a political environment where being openly gay was not an option, especially for a president, Bush may have felt the need to conceal his true feelings. This private struggle would add another layer of complexity to a man who is often seen as the epitome of conservative American leadership. While the rumors surrounding Bush's sexuality remain speculative, they speak to the larger theme of public figures who must navigate the tension between their private lives and the expectations placed on them by society. The idea that Bush may have kept his sexual identity a secret only adds to the enigma of his presidency.
12 George W. Bush.
George W. Bush, the 43rd President of the United States, is known for his leadership during the 9/11 attacks and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. While his presidency is often remembered for its global challenges, his personal life, particularly his relationships with men, offers a fascinating story that has largely gone unnoticed. Though George W. Bush is best known for his relationship with his wife, Laura, there are rumors about his relationships with men during his time at Yale and beyond. Some speculate that Bush may have had relationships with male classmates or political figures, particularly in his younger years before his marriage. There have been whispers about his emotional bonds with certain men in his inner circle, with some even suggesting that these relationships were more than just friendly. The fact that George W. Bush's public image as a devout Christian and family man contrasts with these rumors about his sexuality only adds to the intrigue. The secrecy surrounding his personal life suggests that, much like many of his predecessors, he may have been hiding aspects of his sexual identity to protect his public image. If these rumors are true, it would add a layer of complexity to his legacy as a leader during one of the most tumultuous periods in American history. 13. Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, the 42nd President of the United States, is remembered for his charm, political savvy, and, of course, his numerous scandals. His affair with Monica Lewinsky, which led to his impeachment, is one of the most widely discussed aspects of his presidency. However, beyond his well-known dalliances with women, there have been persistent rumors suggesting that Clinton's sexual relationships may not have been exclusively heterosexual. Clinton's charm and easygoing demeanor made him incredibly popular with both men and women. Throughout his political career, Clinton was known to have formed close relationships with several male figures, some of whom were said to have been more than just political allies. These friendships, which included emotional intimacy, have led to speculation about Clinton's true sexual identity. While there is no concrete evidence to support the idea that Clinton had romantic or sexual relationships with men, the rumors have persisted. Some suggest that Clinton's womanizing was a cover for deeper, more hidden desires that he couldn't fully express in the public eye. Given the political climate of the 1990s, it's possible that Clinton, as a charismatic and powerful figure, was forced to live in the shadows when it came to his sexuality. The possibility that Clinton's relationships with certain men were not just platonic adds another layer of complexity to his character. While his sexual exploits with women were often out in the open, the idea that there was a side to him that he kept carefully hidden raises questions about how much of his public persona was shaped by the need to conceal his true self. If the rumors are true, Clinton's public image as a ladies' man would take on a different meaning, one that complicates his legacy as a president. 14. Barack Obama. Barack Obama, the 44th President of the United States, is one of the most influential figures of the 21st century. As the first African American president, Obama's rise to power was historic, and his presidency is marked by his efforts to reform healthcare, improve the economy, and increase the country's standing on the global stage. Obama's public image as a family man, devoted to his wife Michelle and their 2 daughters, has been carefully cultivated, but there are persistent rumors about his sexual past that have raised eyebrows. While Obama has always been open about his political views and personal history, there have been whispers suggesting that he may have had relationships with men in his youth. Some of these rumors focus on his college years, where Obama was reportedly seen spending significant amounts of time with male friends. Additionally, some sources have pointed to Obama's intellectual circles and the emotional depth of his friendships with certain men as evidence that his sexuality may not be as straightforward as his public persona suggests. The speculation surrounding Obama's sexuality was fueled by reports from people who knew him during his time at Occidental College and later at Harvard Law School, who have hinted at his emotional closeness with certain men. These rumors have never been confirmed, but they continue to be a subject of interest among conspiracy theorists and those looking for a more hidden narrative in Obama's life. Obama's presidency was marked by his calm demeanor, intellectual rigor, and commitment to social progress. But if these rumors about his past relationships are true, it would add another layer to the story of a man who presented himself as the symbol of hope and change. What does it mean for a figure like Obama, who became a beacon of progress for so many, if his early relationships were kept secret because they didn't fit the image of a politically acceptable family man? 15. Joe Biden. Joe Biden, the 46th President of the United States, is known for his decades-long political career, his empathy, and his ability to connect with ordinary Americans. Biden's public persona as a devoted family man has been central to his appeal, especially following the loss of his first wife, Nelia, and their daughter, and later his son Beau. However, Biden's emotional life, particularly his relationships with men, has raised some interesting questions about his true feelings and the complexity of his identity. While Biden has been married to Jill Biden for over 4 decades, some speculate that his relationships with male colleagues during his early years in politics may have been more intimate than what was publicly acknowledged. Biden's emotional vulnerability, particularly after the deaths of his wife and son, led him to lean heavily on close male friends, and some have suggested that these connections could have crossed into a more romantic realm. While Biden's personal life is generally seen as a symbol of resilience and stability, there is a hint of mystery surrounding his emotional connections, particularly with men during his early years as a senator. In today's political climate, where LGBTQ+ rights have become an important issue, rumors about Biden's sexuality have raised questions about the nature of his relationships. Some have pointed to Biden's close relationships with men in his political circle, particularly his role as vice president, where he formed deep bonds with figures like Barack Obama, as evidence that his personal life may have been more complex than it appeared. Was his closeness with certain male figures a reflection of a deeper, hidden side of his sexuality? Or were these relationships purely platonic? While there is no definitive proof that Joe Biden has ever had romantic relationships with men, the idea that his public life as a family man and dedicated politician might have hidden a secret dimension to his personal identity adds complexity to his legacy. Could a man who has spent his life in public service, advocating for equality and fairness, have had a secret side that he kept hidden from the world? The possibility raises important questions about the evolving perceptions of sexuality in American politics.